So you guys saw the version of this deck that is pre-Primal Origins beating the crap out of somebody earlier today with a 10,000 attack point Cherub Sprout. Let's look at this version once it gets really good. Take it away, Nick.
Alright, so this is the Prio version of Sylvans. This is what it looks like when they finally get their charity. This is without any TCG exclusives because we're unaware of anything that's coming out. But it's a fairly simple deck. One of my favorite cards out of this is Magical Merchant. It's a really sacky card because things like Bear and Atlantean Marksman can really cause this to be a bad play. But basically what you do with this is you flip it and you excavate until you get a spell trap. And I only run 9 spells and no traps. So this guy should go through an average about 4 cards before actually hitting the spell. And your spells are power cards, so this means that it's a guaranteed +1 if it actually does go off.
Are you considering moving this out for Curry Bandit once that comes out?
Yes, because it is not susceptible to things like Bear, because it's a very aggressive play, whereas Merchant is a very passive play. You have to set it, and you have to hope that your opponent doesn't kill it while it's face down, or, flip it and then it get Veiler, Phoenix Chains, whatever. So you can, summon it, and then during end phase, because it's optional, it avoids the Veiler, you tribute it and you excavate, and it lets you choose your power spells out of them. My favorite card out of this deck, Cherub Sprout. And I run it at 3 because this is my abusive card. The fact that as many times as you want that you can special summon it and then you get 2 excavates off of it means that repeated abuse of this special summoning means you're continuously hitting 2 consistently. So what you're doing is you're taking your spells and you're stacking them to the bottom of the deck to make sure that when you actually get to the cards that count for excavating, that they always excavate what they need. So this card is honestly the recommended 3 of, and because all the level ones are super power spells. My favorite card, also aside from Cherub Sprout, is Snuff Spy, and I don't think people give this card enough love that it should. It's basically, I don't know if you guys know, but this is basically like Lightsworn Minerva, except 3 times better. It has a lot of combos with the Mount Sylvania. You can pitch this for the cost and then stack any card you want to, and then Snuff Spy triggers and then mills off whatever that you stacked with it.
So explain the card's effect for a second for those who don't know.
So basically, if this card is sent from your hand or field to the graveyard, you excavate 1 card, and then if this card is excavated, you excavate another card. So basically what you're doing is this is kind of like, I guess I'm going to compare this to Hoban's Upstart Theory, because this basically lets you run 37 cards, because every time it gets sent to the graveyard, you excavate an additional card, which is really, 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 really important. Also, this guy stacks up for my bonus card, which is my little tech that I absolutely love to death. But basically, this guy is
so good.
This guy is just my favorite. 3 Martial Leaf. Probably one of the most versatile cards in the deck, just because you can excavate 2 on normal summon and then it pops a monster when it is excavated. Not much to say here. I mean, it's got a decent amount of attack, which is very important in this deck for its utility. So this is probably one of the most utility cards. Sylvan Sage Koya is a 3 of. For people who don't know what this is, when this card is, when a Sylvan is sent to the graveyard from anywhere, except during the damage step, you can drop this card from your hand as a special summon, and it's a level 7. That's very important in our current format, as the best rank 7s are, Draco Sack and Big Eye, and the new boss monster for Sylvans. And then if this is excavated, it gets you back any Sylvan spell, and that's hugely important in this deck because you run 2 Sylvan spells, and both of them are extremely important to the deck's speed and consistency. And it can excavate 1. I mean, I guess that's really cool. It's just... You just need everything to be very, speedy and powerful. Lonefire.deck. Nothing really to explain there. There's a cool play with this and Sylvania, where you normal summon this and you tribute it to get the Hermitry, and then you play Mount Sylvania and you discard a card to stack Peacekeeper, and then you mill it off with Peacekeeper, draw a card, get a Lonefire back, tribute it off for a second Hermitry, and then you have, I'll say, Felgrand, whatever you need for rank 8s. So, yeah, Lonefire. I run 2 Kamashimo, and there is a good reason why I run 2. I don't want to draw this. I mean, it's cute to draw. I mean, if you get it, that's cool. You can set it and excavate 5 potentially. But with Magical Merchant and this, if I ran 3 and 3, that's when you draw this, you are super tempted to set it because it's powerful when it does go off. But in doing that, you give your opponent the time to go aggressively, and that's really bad on a deck that's focused on speed and aggression. So I mean, I guess set if you need to, but when it's excavated, it's an MST. You destroy any spell trap on the field, and that's really good for clearing out back row for this deck. 2 Hermitry. This is the worst card to draw in your deck. Really easy to get out of your hand with Sylvan Charity, and it's really easy to get out of your hand with the Mountain, so it's not that bad. But basically, he's your power card of the deck. He is supposed to... He excavates 1, and if it's a plant, you draw an additional card. And if it's excavated, the only mandatory Sylvan, which puts it on Chain Link 1, and you look at the top, up to 3 cards at the top of your deck, and then rearrangement in order. Very, 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 very important, because you need to make sure that you control what you're drawing, so you're not drawing dead at any point in the game. I run 2 Peacekeeper, specifically because I don't want to draw multiples of these, and it's only once per turn, so I don't want to excavate multiples of this, because, well, I don't want to waste the effect. It's very, very, very important. You can always stack these with Sylvania. It's just your themed monster reborn. This card is insane. If you normal or special summon it, if you're cutesy enough, I guess you can excavate 1 card. I mean, it's something, I guess.
Well, that's how you made the Cherub Sprout play earlier today
Right.
that won you that game.
This is one of my favorite utility cards coming out.
All right, talk to me about what this card. What does it do?
So Fairy Lotus is one of my favorite excavation cards because it reads the amount of cards on your opponent's field during resolution, and then it excavates that many cards. So if your opponent has, 4 cards in play, let's say, they have Grapha, Gates, and then 2 set cards. Well, when you Fairy Lotus and excavate, you'll excavate 4 cards. And that's really, really important. But also, when he's excavated, he takes any 5 Sylvan cards from your graveyard and then puts them to the bottom of the deck in any order. So he's kind of like a themed Avarice that doesn't draw. So, I mean, really good resetting the level 1s. You don't want to reset anything else, just the level 1s. Copy Plant. This card is extremely utility. Yeah, we'll go with that. Utility.
Gives you a lot of utility.
Yes. With these 2 specifically, because you have rank 7s, and it also goes really good with Goes Unmatched because you can copy plant and stage Koya for Dragosac because they're all wind, and then you can Hermitry plus copy plant for Alcé or for Felgrand, which are very, very important in this deck. First turn Felgrand generally hurts a lot of decks or causes them to play differently than they normally would. And generally puts you in an upward position because you generally have 5 to 6 cards in hand by the time you can make it. But it's a generic tuner, level 1. You can use it for Formula Synchron, anything else. Re-gettable back with Peacekeeper, which means you have recurring level 1 tuners, and that's insane. I want one of this guy. This is my least favorite Sylvan, aside from Blade Fender. They're both absolutely terrible. Flower Knight is literally only good because he's an 1800. He activates 1 a normal summon, but you really don't want to see this guy because he's a normal summoner, and that means it's slow. And right now, I do believe in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, tacking on a normal summon trigger on a card is the biggest way to restrict a card. And I do believe that's why the Dragons of Legends cards are going to be so balanced, I guess, because with Card D, Mathematician coming out and that new Karibo card, all of them have to be normal summoned and you have to wait. So that means it's going slow and slow and slow. So I need to be fast, and Flower Knight just isn't fast. But when he's excavated, he stacks any Sylvan card to the top of my deck. And there are a lot of cute tricks with Sylvan Flower Knight and Formula Synchron. Like you can stack Sylvan Charity and then draw it with Formula Synchron. Really cool. 1 Dandelion. It's a plant that generates 2 tokens. If you're watching this video, you've probably played before 2011. You should know what Dandelion does. Spore. Generic tuner that recurs. Great, because you can Black Rose the field and then Spore back for my secret deck card, which is absolutely amazing, and sometimes just that wins the game on its own. To the spells. 3 Mount Sylvania. One of the most important cards in the deck. The spells are all power cards, so we have to treat them very carefully and like they are power cards. So basically what Sylvania does is you discard, or you send a plant from your hand or the field to the graveyard, and you can stack any Sylvan card to the top of your deck. This is very important for plays with Peacekeeper. This is very important for if you're going to normal summon a trigger. This makes sure that you'll get at least 1 card off. It is a -1, and MST being ran in 3 means that this card is able to die, but you know what? This is literally the only card in the deck that they can MST, so we expect it already. And then its other effect is during your opponent's end phase, if it happens to live, you can excavate 1 card. But the great thing about that is that when it's excavated, if it's not a plant, you can choose to put it back on the top instead of the bottom, and that means you can control your draws, which is absolutely amazing. 1/1 for 1 because Cherub Sprout. Great card, and then you can get your level 1 tuner. Sylvan Charity. This is the card that kind of busts the deck. Although I feel like this card is like tanky in the fact that if you draw too many of these, it becomes worse. Because you can only activate once per turn. But it lets you control your draws. You draw 3 cards, and then you stack 2, with at least 1 being a Sylvan. So what this enables you to do is see the next 3 cards and then control what's going on with them. And the best thing is, if you don't like any of them, you can summon Lone Fire and then Tribute and then somehow shuffle the deck so that you take bad cards from your hand, put them back into the deck, and then keep the good cards in there. Great for drawing out your power spells so that you make sure that you have them in your hand and all that's left in the deck is monsters. And the best card in the deck. The reason why I created this deck.
Oh man, this is why this is like the best build I have ever seen for this deck.
My favorite card, Raging Mad Plants. Okay, so this card is a quick play that can be activated in the damage step, and it says that all face-up plants gain 300 attack for every plant monster in the graveyard till the end phase, and then you destroy all the plants at the end phase. Now, the reason why this is so good is because with my explanations, you should have figured out by now that this deck is pretty much Turbo Excavate. Like, you're going to be between Cherub Sprout and Magical Merchant and Snuff Spy. I mean, there's so much excavating going on that you can excavate as many as 10 cards a turn, and that's very, very, very important because basically the whole time you're setting up for this. You're putting out your power plays and playing Sylvans like you normally should. And if that puts your opponent on the edge and they have to waste cards to come up with yours, and then when they're down on resources, you throw this and win the game by a surprise. No one really knows about this card, and this card honestly steals wins. Today, if you saw in the video earlier, I was able to make a 10,000 attack power Cherub Sprout because of 2 of these. And it wins. I mean, I've had duels where fluff tokens win because who's going to attack fluff tokens? And then when fluff tokens attack you, you're going to go, something's wrong here, but I'm not going to do anything because it's fluff tokens. So this card is a really big mind game, and I really enjoy this card. This is probably the reason why this deck wins.
To give you guys a perspective on how good this card is, it was like a daily thing last week that this guy posted pictures from Dueling Network and DevPro with monsters that had upwards, like 3 monsters on the field that each had 9,000 attack points, and like monsters with over 20,000 attack points. It was crazy.
The best thing about this card is that it only destroys the plants. So there are ways to alleviate this if you cannot win off the Raging Mad Plants. If you have Snuff Spies that gained a lot of attack, killing them means you get to excavate more, meaning you get to see more cards in your deck, meaning you get to get more effects and potentially, you know, cope with the fact that you're about to lose a bunch of cards. Magical Merchant and the Exceases can also make sure that they won't die. So, I mean, Raging Mad Plants isn't the end of the world. It's, I'm going to hit you for a lot of attack power, and if that doesn't kill you, then I'm just going to Exceed Synchro or do whatever, and then, you know, then you have to deal with that on top of it. So, and generally, Raging Mad Plants isn't something you can anticipate, so one of them is generally going to get through, and if it doesn't kill you, you're going to have so many low life points that just a normal play could kill you.
Just to start a conversation and to talk about some new ideas, what are some of the problems that you have with this deck?
Well, currently right now, Magical Merchant is a huge problem. Fire Fists with Bear and decks that can aggressively kill face downs means that this doesn't resolve, and Mushroom doesn't resolve. I swear to God, everyone has Bottomless Trap Hole for my Hermitry.
It's true.
It's true. It happens a lot. So lots of traps generally slow the deck down, but generally the deck should have enough speed and power to overcome. I see Vanity's Emptiness being a huge thing for this deck. A weakness, because I feel like Vanity's Emptiness is going to be a huge thing in the next format coming Prio, with artifacts and Sylvans and just a lot of spam. I feel like we kind of regressed to a slow format, and now we're starting to pick back up into a special summon speedy format, where Duality and Card are going to become slightly irrelevant, but still maintain relevancy. So this guy is going to be replaced with the Curry guy. What is it?
Curry Bandit.
Curry Bandit. I always want to say Curry Babylon. But,
Curry Babylon.
Yeah, well, that's one of the cards.
Yeah, I remember that episode, yeah.
But basically, yeah, you trade off the passiveness of Merchant for the aggressiveness and the speediness of that, which complements the deck and its style. If Raging Mad Plants doesn't go off or you don't draw it quick enough and you're drawing bad, there is a high chance that you will lose. I'm not saying you have to have this to win because it's basically a Sylvan deck with Raging Mad Plants. I do not like Miracle Fertilizer. I will stand by this that Miracle Fertilizer to me is a bad card for Sylvans because when you draw Miracle Fertilizer, I have this theory, like with Dark Armed, where if you draw a power card like that, your entire strategy, instead of being what it was, becomes, how do I play this power card? Because I know usually when this card is played, I win games. So with that in hand, you generally want to make it to where when something goes wrong and you get, your cards die, you will end up with 3 Darks in the graveyard so you can summon Dark Armed. Because why not? You have it in the hand, why waste it? And I feel like Miracle Fertilizer is one of those cards, and it's simply killed. I mean, and we're in a format with 3 MST. Dust Tornadoes are being made. I've seen it in Gear Gears where, Dust Tornadoes. And Fairy Wind is still a huge side card over here. And honestly, I just feel like Miracle Fertilizer, it penalizes you. Your opponent lets you summon the monster, you hit the fertilizer, they get the monster, but you are now penalized for normal summoning or setting for the rest of the turn, and that's hugely detrimental when, a lot of your Sylvans have to normal summon to get their effects. Or you can set Commustromo. I don't think it's worth it. I think the little guys being speeded up, I do believe that's a lot more powerful than like one big Sylvan, because one big Sylvan is easier to deal with than a lot of little ones, especially with Raging Mad Plants. So, I mean, honestly, the weakness, being Merchant and then the dependency on plants. It's not super dependent, but I mean, you have to admit, this card wins games. So, other than that, I mean, like, we don't have Charity now and it's working, so with Charity it just gets a little better. It's slightly dependent on Sylvania, so if you don't see Sylvania, it's not that good. But the percentages that I have for spells the monsters are so tweaked and fine-tuned to the point where I feel super comfortable only running this. And side decking really isn't a problem because these come out immediately, because most opponents will expect Merchant. So this gets replaced for Valor's, Maxis, general things, because it's not a plant anyway, so it doesn't affect the ratio in which you would excavate in the first place. Let's see, none of your plants generally do come out. If anything, sometimes I will take Raging Mad Plants if my opponent, like, Scraps. Scraps have a lot of huge monsters, and it's really hard for you to OTK with Raging Mad Plants because the Synchros replace themselves. So this would be a side out because you more want to focus on them, preventing them from getting the monsters rather than trying to get over them, because they're going to replace themselves and stop you from OTKing. So that's a little theory behind the deck. I'm going to do the extra deck real quick.
Alright, yeah. We're going to want to do this quickly in the interest of preserving people's time.
Yes. One Felgrand.
Yep.
Obvious.
Yep.
Just a great card on the first play. I'll say. I feel like this is a Yu-Gi-Oh pun. I'll say. This card is ridiculous. 3200 defense. It gets you, it's basically an Archfiend Oath on, I would call those legs, but I don't think they look anything like legs. But basically what you do is you call a card name, and then you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's the declared card name, you add it to your hand. Otherwise, you send it to the graveyard. And then when a card is sent from your deck to the graveyard in any way, except during damage step, you detach material, and then you can target one card on the field, and then top or bottom of the deck. So you can easily control, I know a lot of people are using this with Archfiend's Oath, because they'll bounce the Archfiend's Oath and put Archfiend's Oath, and then they'll just keep, stacking it or whatever. And that's really cool. Or Araya, they can arrange the top cards of the deck and then Archfiend's Oath, and with this guy, I really don't like Alcé. He's pretty cool, and he's good in certain situations, I just don't like him a lot. The best card in the deck. If you get this guy out, this card changes games very quickly because of one reason. When you excavate and actually excavate the monsters, you bounce cards up to the number of monsters that you excavated, but it does not target. That's brutal in certain situations, meaning that they have to respond to the detach, and they cannot do anything afterwards when it's resolving. And honestly, that wins games. A lot of people use it to bounce back Miracle Fertilizers and Archfiend's Oath, and I think that's kind of like the quote-unquote Saki version of the deck, because if you don't have the Archfiend's Oath or the Miracle Fertilizers, this card automatically becomes a little less better because you're going to be bouncing your opponent's stuff, and generally, it doesn't minus them anything unless you're going for the OTK, because they're just going to get it right back to their hands. in order to use again, and sometimes you can bounce useful stuff for them. But I literally like using this just to bounce. If I abuse Cherub Sprout a lot, and a lot of the little Sylvans, and I use him to bounce them all back to my hand, so that I replenish my hand and my resources without letting them die by this. I have more field for this field spell. I can normal summon again if I had Martial Leaf and stuff. Great. Just a great utility card. And then Dragosack and Big Eye, but I don't actually physically own those cards right now for the video. So those are in there. I don't have to explain that. Formula Synchron. You have a bunch of level 1 tuners, and you have a bunch of level 1 non-tuners. One Mistborn Colossalus. This card is great for the OTK. You make their attack 0, and then you swing with a bunch of plants over a 0 attack power monster, and they can't Swift Scarecrow or anything. Great card. Also, this is great for baiting out Raging Mad Plants, because if you're attacking with like a Dandelion, they're going to be like, okay, I'll take 400 damage, and then you drop the Raging Mad Plants, and you're like, good game, and they're like, oh, okay. My personal choice if they're level 4, I did not choose Army Armor, I like Ball Monk, because if he dies by a card effect, you can resurrect, Lone Fire, you can resurrect Cherub Sprout and get 2 Excavates off of it. This guy is just like more fuel for the fire. Great card. My level 5 choice is Armades or Catastor. I like Catastor right now. My optimal choice for level 5 is Reincarnation Dragon Samsara in Duelist Advent, because it's a monster reborn and it's insane. And it's a dark. But again, that's in Duelist Advent. But for right now, I like Catastor, just because it gets over a lot of problematic cards. Powered Insectron as my level 6. Why? Because I run Formula, and I feel like this guy is really good with Formula on the opponent's turn. This or Queen of Thorns, and Queen of Thorns honestly is just way too easy to get over. You can Powered Insectron and then activate its effect on your turn, and then attack a Sheehan with it and kill it, and Insectron doesn't die.
We have
Black Rose.
A samurai player sitting next to us.
Black
in case
Rose.
we're wondering.
This card is more obvious than Why We Should Live. Black Rose is just Black Rose. One Star to Spark.
Yep.
Card is really good. It protects your field spell or itself, I guess. It's really good against destructive decks if you're, it's just a great card. Crimson Blader, because why not? Card is really good. And then Leo.
Because Leo.
These cards right here are really good for the format. Really good. I mean, there's a lot of Vermails, and with artifacts coming out, oh my gosh. This card is going to be really good. And then this is just really good against like Insectors, artifacts. I mean, you just can't target it, so. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean,
alrighty, guys.
Deck is really good. I don't foresee me making any more changes. I've been testing with this deck for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours. I've done ratios, I've done math checks and everything, and this is actually what I'm super comfortable with. And the only thing that I have to learn about is sighting more clearly, and then what to side in and out, because that's a very fuzzy part of the deck, and that's probably its only weakness for now, for me as a player. And that's pretty much it.
Alright. Well, there you guys go. That's probably the best Sylvan variant that I have seen yet. I'm glad you guys made it through this video, and I'm sure you guys are feeling glad that you have gotten to see this. I'm really excited to see this deck in action. I hope you guys are too. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below. And of course, subscribe for more decks discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! and Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0, and I got a jet.
This deck sucks.
See you guys.